Welcome to the Volunteer Youth Worker Podcast. Youth ministries rise and fall on the volunteers. So we are here to encourage and equip you. Join the conversation as we tackle the practical questions you are asking so you can help the next generation know Jesus.
All right, Sid, we've got this fun conversation because there's a number of youth workers that downloaded this podcast because they hate the games. And why do we have to do this game time? Like, it's such
stupid
it's
games.
A deflator. The kids don't like them. It's just, they go too long.
I got hit in the head and my glasses got broken by that junior high kid again.
Yeah, the one
how
kid
many
that
of us
loves
have
them.
done the games how many of us have done games at youth group or camp, and there's that one junior high kid that's just looking to get you with that blind shot, and you got to take it.
He's excited about it. He's really excited about it.
So excited about it.
But games are interesting. And, last week we had Tate talk about, from a pretty thoughtful, like what they're doing, have done this last summer at Quanos, like really thoughtful approach to games and community building. And so that's at like a pretty big scale. But let's be honest, lots of our ministries this coming week, it might be a loosely set up Gaga Ball thing,
little duck goose,
a little duck goose, a little like ninja, like it's
or you could be like me. Hey, Jared, I remember when I thought it would be great to bring it back old school and go with sardines, if anyone remembers that game, until I found myself in a very dark corner, finding a young student and going, oh, this is actually now a child protection policy issue. So that game's out.
A few rules. Yeah. And I mean, we could do the thing where we tell all the stories about the games that were terrible, that kids ended up at the hospital because of the game, kids puking because of oversaturation, which I thought would have been a fun thing, just to drink as much water as you possibly can, not realizing how dangerous that actually is. So we definitely have lots of mistakes with this kind of stuff, but let's not go there. Let's actually talk about the point of why do we bother. Aren't we just supposed to open the Bible? Like, why do we bother reading or playing these kinds of things? What's the point of that in youth ministry?
Okay, so right off the top of my head here, I think about two things. I think about games as a means to an end or an end in themselves. That's what I'm kind of wrestling with. And let me just say this, man, I think playing together with kids is really holy work. I really do.
Yeah.
And so there's a means to an end piece here. So for instance, in most situations, when we can play with kids, it actually leads to, when play is done well, when it's not primarily about competing, but it's actually about building community, then it actually creates this really wonderful shared experience where kids can begin to feel safe with each other. It actually, there's two things. We're taking a look at culture creation right now. And there's two elements of culture creation I'm fascinated by. One is creating vulnerability loops where kids feel safe to be more open and vulnerable with each other. And actually playing together can develop that kind of space where really it's, you're running, you're putting yourself in maybe a bit of an awkward space. There's a chance that you could be maybe embarrassed in the space. And yet, if it's done well, you're enjoyed, you're welcomed in. There's a type of like ability to laugh at oneself, which actually creates a spirit of vulnerability, which is really important for doing deep ministry work in the life of a young person. The other element that's big.
Can I just speak to that too a little bit? Because I think the idea that competition can still be used for some of the means to an end. And so you think about community building. I would, usually think in the core part of your small group, your group actually bonds together.
Absolutely.
Through the community. Sometimes you can use games or activities as a means to spark like attendance. And so it's like, hey, bring more people because then these things are, it's more fun, or it's a competition between small groups or whatever it might be. And so means to an end there. And so rules around if you're going to use those markers for your activities, then you got to make sure that nobody gets embarrassed playing these games. It doesn't isolate or single out. The losing team can't feel like somebody let them down or that it was somebody's fault. So you have to actually be really thoughtful about how you craft the experience, knowing what will end up being the result from it.
Yeah, there's a really important spirit of it that's important, right? So like you said, and by the way, your leaders will always set the tone. And so part of it is being aware of your kids, seeing how they're responding, what they can handle and manage in that space, how we set the tone for it. Because we love, like in my youth ministry experience, Jer, including right now at camp, the environments where we play hard are the places where we seem to have like some of our most deep work that's taking place in the lives of kids. And that creates really powerful bonds between leaders and kids in particular. And that leads to kind of the second one, like it creates vulnerability loops, but it also creates belonging cues that when, hey, you're with me, we're together in this, let's go do this together. It can create a powerful sense of I'm a part of something. And now what happens is winning and losing, even though that's the mode that we're functioning in, even that's the overarching narrative, that's actually not the goal. The goal is that we are doing this together in terms of whatever happens in the company, but it's facilitating that. And again, like that can be very, very powerful and significant for allowing kids to experience one, relationship with their leader, but two, community with their peers, which both God calls us into. That actually, when we experience that in a really healthy manner, it's fulfilling a deep God-given longing that we all have. And in our environments right now, it's one way for us to actually be fulfilled in that space. So I think that there's like a real means to an end. But the other point of it is too, Jared, there is this element, like we talk about this at camp all the time. In Zechariah, the prophet is speaking to the people of Israel and painting a picture of the future when God actually reigns and brokenness is gone. And it speaks about the children, the boys and girls playing together in the streets. And there's something when we acknowledge that God is in control and he is the king on the throne over all things, that gives us the safety and the joy to be able to play together well. And there's part of playing together that is what it means to be human. That is part of God's good design. There's a renewal and refreshing that can happen. It's part of joining in the Sabbath. If I understand kind of the Old Testament motif and narrative, that when the king is on the throne and we've entered that rest, that Sabbath, that we can joyfully play together. And that's something really beautiful and renewing and restoring that can happen. So I really believe, Jared, that this is a part of a really healthy, God-glorifying gathering when we can enjoy and play together. Now, we acknowledge that, hey, there's different seasons of life when we can be engaged in different types of play. Like at camp right now, not too many people want to see this 52-year-old body go like flying across the field on a regular. Now, Jen forces me to play at one point in the summer all the time, but A, it's not awesome. I can't manage it. And also, I'm not as in control as I once was. And so I'm trucking little kids because I just can't stop. So let's be clear. There's different types of play that are age appropriate, all that kind of stuff that require some wisdom. But boy, a community without some type of play together, whether that's a disposition of celebration and fun and like whatever it is, those communities are rarely transforming when there's not an element of that that's a part of them.
Yeah. So, why do we have to play these games? It's actually because it's a core part of, I think, who we are, but it does mean that you have to shift your understanding perhaps of your group. So for some youth workers thinking it's like, oh no, we show up just to tell kids about Jesus. And it's like, well, yes, you should, but also you're embodying the community. Yeah. You're becoming and showing kids what it looks like to be a part of the body of believers. And so because of that, there's actually a much wider vision of what you're trying to accomplish. But maybe we can move and spend, so that was like, in some ways a little bit quick to explain that first part. I wonder if we can affirm that, there are probably some things you can do to make your games better or your playtime like more actually helpful, and those practical ideas. Because again, I'm just thinking like I've seen, and you know too, Sid. There's lots of times where these things are just awful setups, and we're like, oh, if you could just do a little bit of an assessment of your ministry. And so if you're a volunteer and you're like, oh, these games go too long, they don't work, the kids are bored, it's frustrating. Let's try to help with some of those issues with giving some kind of keys or tools, maybe to unlocking a better game time. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I love it so much. I think it's really smart.
Okay, so when you were talking a little bit about games, I'm thinking back to the time I was actually at Green Bay with my family, and this is a big principle that we, I was kind of trying to reference it earlier, that we do this together. Nobody gets isolated, and so I would say prioritize as a ministry fewer games that people do things by themselves and more games where people do things together. So it's actually not wrong to lose together as a small group. It can actually be kind of fun, enjoyable. You get a memory out of it, but no, it doesn't because of any one weak link. So if you think about traditional, and your ministry maybe doesn't do this, but like traditional relay races, you've got a team and you send one person to go and do the thing. Well, if that one person trips and falls and fails, they've let down the whole team. How awful is that? Versus when you plan and prepare for an activity, you have to do it together. You don't necessarily always send a representative. And when you do it together, there's less of a chance of that person becoming isolated. And instead, you can lose together.
Yeah. So the sense of together, I think, is really important. Now, Jared, you and I also know there's certain personalities that love representing the whole up front for a game and that sort of thing. So we're just careful about how we choose those people. We don't want to force someone into a space of shame. Do you know what I mean? And so how we choose and put people into those spaces matters. But we always say more of us is better than one of us in our activities and games. Okay, so here's another principle. What is age or developmentally appropriate? So for instance, we're not playing baseball between adults and children who are in grade 5. Do you know what I mean? And pitching overhand. We're not doing that because that requires a type of skill that's developmentally and interest appropriate that doesn't allow everyone else to join in. It immediately marginalizes people. So instead, at camp, we've got water pools, we've got great big kickballs, we are using beach balls so they don't move too fast, and every single person can access that experience and do so well and enjoy it together. So we're thinking about that piece as well. That's developmentally appropriate. Okay, do you have another one? Let's go back and forth. Do you have another principle?
That's good. I just want to flag, when you think about developmentally appropriate, you also got to know part of that, you take cues from your group. So you should know about the style and the vibe of your group. Because I think for some, there's a season of my ministry where I'm like, we're pretty weighted heavy on some of these older guys. And so we'll disconnect from some of like the more seemingly juvenile games. And yet we had this group of older guys that are like, no, we're bringing the face paint. We're playing Manhunt in the church and we're going to terrify the grade 6, 7 students. And our goal is to just make them so terrified. And so that becomes like, they're excited. And because they're excited, all of a sudden their younger students got more excited. And so you got to know your group a little bit to know what becomes appropriate.
And each group has a culture, a way of being. In fact, games become representative, traditions become representative and shaping of culture. And again, you have to ask, when is it shaping us in a way that's not in alignment with the kind of culture God would have us to have? When is it helping build it? I think that's really important. Yeah. There's another piece to this puzzle too of around timing. If we're just looking practically, we want to end games a little early rather than too late, and so, and then even if I think about my youth night, are these games taking up an appropriate amount of time for that evening and what our purpose for our night is? And so there will be some nights where all you should do is play together. That should be it. But that shouldn't be most of your nights. There should be something much more going on that we want to move towards. And so we should be aware of how much timing and emphasis we're putting on these things as well. And if it really is in alignment with our purpose and outcomes that we want our kids to experience in our gathering times together.
Yeah. Yeah. So we want them to be, let's play together. Let's not isolate. Yeah. Let's think about being developmentally appropriate to our group. Think about the timing. And so timing matters. If you got, just check with somebody else. If you're not sure, just ask somebody and they'll tell you if it's like, we should have wrapped this like a long time ago. Like that's no problem.
Shut it down.
Yeah. And then I want to add, make sure that you explain and opt in people every step of the way. So one of the worst things I think you could do if your group is an open group where you're expecting new people to show up is get to the start of the night and like, hey, everybody, we're playing Aliens. Yeah, everybody's excited. All right, ready, set, go. And then you've got this new person who's thinking like, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do now? And again, you've now isolated somebody in an event that should have felt like this is a community builder, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's so good. I think there's a real principle here too, Jer, that as leaders, we really need to understand what the purpose of our game is and what we're actually trying to accomplish so that we can be really intentional with it. and so that we set ourselves up with the right disposition towards it, because it really is about positioning us as leaders in a trusting space with kids that will continue to grow and develop these relationships, make kids feel deeply cared for and loved, and also in a space where they go, hey, I think I can trust this person with some of the more important things in my life that I need to. So it's leading us somewhere. And as a team, we really need to be on board with it. Hey, here's a practical piece, Jer. One of the things that we used to do in our youth ministry is we had like our shepherding team, which was our small group leaders, and we had our program team. And so our program team would plan our events and experiences for the night, including our game. And then they would ask our shepherding team to be all in. Okay, let's invest, let's be all in. And so that's how we would honor the program team. But then, whether it was weekly or monthly, our program team would ask our shepherding team to evaluate the program and the games and activities and tell them if it actually was helpful for their community with their kids and that experience. And then they would listen to that shepherding team and go, okay, I think we need to change what we're doing, or great, we'll continue to double down on this. And so there really needs to be a good back and forth so that what we're doing is very intentional and actually helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that whole idea of having a purpose, which I think is kind of like our fifth thing, is something that if you carry into any of your activities, it becomes, I think, really helpful. It gives you something to evaluate against. And so, we just wrapped up or kind of coming out of our conferences for the fall. And like we spent a long time in advance of our conferences kind of thinking through, okay, we want to do something specific in this main session. We want people to feel a certain way. We want them, and specifically for us, we want them to feel like they're with family that understand and know what it's like to be a youth worker. We want them to laugh a little bit, but we want them to also get the feels of like, oh yeah, these are my people. And so we're trying to use a game that, again, doesn't isolate people, but allows them to opt in. And so that became how we crafted, one in particular, the games that we did. That purpose allows you to have a lens, and you make some subtle shifts and changes based on that purpose and can make sure that it's trying to, again, accomplish what you're looking for. And then maybe the last thing is, and the way that we can end it is just try not to be lame, or as the kids say it, maybe cringe. And the simplest thing is it depends on your group. Like, again, some groups it's going to be cringe, some groups it's not. The point is you can get out in front of it by actually being excited yourself. Don't be lame yourself about it. But then just double check. Like if you're doing, I was going to use examples from a couple of ministries that I've seen lately. I'm like, oh no, actually, that maybe isn't helpful. But
let me say,
there's cringe examples.
Yeah, I talked with PK, who's working at a church now in Central Heights, and he actually built a team of people who have they're just so fun to be around, and they just create such great environments. So they're actually in charge of developing and creating the games every night. Yeah. And he meets with them once a month to see what their activities are, what the plan is, how long, all those kinds of things. But they got the right people that are actually in charge of putting it together, and then they're being really intentional in managing it so it fits well. It has an appropriate place in what they're trying to accomplish. And so again, a little bit of intentionality. Just turn the dial 10% on intentionality. It makes such a difference.
And just ask. Like sometimes it's honestly just, hey, did we evaluate? Like we did that, but did anybody ask the question? Why did everybody roll their eyes?
Should we have had kids swallowing super hot chili peppers and sardines before the night started? So we lost 5 of them for the rest of the night because they're hurling in the bathroom, and then all their friends were in there watching them. Like, should we have maybe done that?
We actually did see this example lately of kids transporting goldfish in their mouth from bowl to bowl. And it just depends on, listen, if you're in rural Manitoba, and maybe that's okay.
Hey, we were doing, right?
Yeah. And maybe if you're,
and maybe it's not okay. Like it might not even be okay there, Jared.
Maybe you got to ask the question. I don't know.
You got to ask the question. What if we were maybe using goldfish crackers instead on this day? That might be cool.
You've been at some ministries, I think, that went out like maybe alligator hunting or something, and that was I don't even know activity.
That was a real thing. Yes, they told me, hey, we were down in Belize. They're like, get in the truck. It's 10:00 at night. And this was youth ministry
group.
Time.
This is activity.
A youth group, legit youth group activity. Okay, legit youth group. I show up, I get in the truck, Jen comes with me, and immediately we're both like, oh, there's a real good chance we're dying tonight. So kid in the back of the truck, massive shotgun, a belt of ammo across his chest, and a huge like halogen light tapped into the battery of the truck as we're driving through the jungle, and they're just shooting at stuff when it moves.
Sure.
Like they're just shooting at it. Then we pull up to these ponds, and I'm like, this is really insane. And they all jump out of the truck. They run into the water. True story. The one guy goes, I think I got one. And all of a sudden he dives under the water, comes up with an alligator, about 2 foot long alligator, which in and of itself is a problem because they do have real teeth that chomp. And then there's always mums somewhere nearby also. They're not even contemplating. Anyways, they bring it out, they give it to me, I'm holding it, and I'm like, what do I do? And they're like, well, put it down. I toss this thing and it turns and starts chasing me. So I run and dive into the back of the truck. So yeah, this is...
And who are we
What
to
the
say that
heck?
that's what you should do?
Who
Like, I
are
don't
we
know.
to say that maybe release alligators in your youth group? That'll be
So
awesome.
let's just say if you're in Canada, there's a few things and we would say that's
There's
probably
a
not the
few
game
boundaries.
to do.
There's
The
some
point
boundaries.
is you should play these games. They matter deeply, but you should feel free to make them better. And so please make sure as a team that you are talking about these kinds of things, but they'd matter for the sake of your students, that's for sure. Any last words, Sid?
Good. No, it's really good. Appreciate it. We just love what you are doing, youth workers. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
And we'll see you next time here on the Volunteer Youth Worker Podcast.